The Halfbrick Show.
Welcome to the Halfbrick Show. Hard to believe that we are at episode 22 already, but here we are. As usual, I'm Carmen from Marketing and Graphic Design, and I'm joined by Aiden. Hi, Aiden.
Hey, Carmen. How you doing? Happy to be back. Episode 22 is crazy.
I've personally been super excited to talk to today's guests because I've been listening to the JJR soundtrack a lot. I work at Halfbrick, so I'm privileged like that. And today we're talking to the person who's responsible for making our games feel as good as they look. The mastermind behind all the blips and bloops and boosts and shooms and all of the sounds that you can come up with. And he's probably the reason that I'm addicted to that soundtrack. So let's get into it.
Who the brick are you?
Welcome, Ricardo. Thanks for joining us. So, who the brick are you? We want to, learn a bit more about yourself. How you doing?
Yeah. Well, I'm Ricardo, and I'm part of the audio team, essentially. So, yeah, we take care of anything audio related in Halfbrick. So, yeah, that means anything that's music related or sound related. If you need SFX, or if you need music, or if you need someone to record a voice line for any game, we'll probably be involved and working hard at it.
Have you got your voice in any games? Does the audio team put their own voices in?
Yes, we do. Mostly we do it kind of sneakily. If it's a weird recording, probably not gonna tell you that it's us. But I do have. Let me think about it. I recorded the creature sounds for what was it? Battle Slingers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And that was really fun, but I remember that when I finished recording it, my throat was killing me. I was almost without voice because, doing creature sounds is fun, but you have to push your limits pretty hard. But
Those are some real Gremlin noises, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very high pitched and just Gremlin like, exactly. But other than that, that's a good question. I mean, I'm sure we do it here and there for some stuff, but I don't think we had a major role where we used our voices. I don't think.
No one's the voice of Dan.
Exactly, like a major character. I might
His
be
little
forgetting
please.
something, but I don't think so. No. Yeah.
Sorry, Dan's mute. That was a joke at first, but I better clarify that I know Dan is.
Exactly.
In case I get called out in the comments.
Yeah. No.
We do know that.
We leave the important and beloved characters to actual voice professionals and people with a nice voice, essentially.
Yeah, no, those Gremlin sounds is great. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
And it's one, just for a bit more information on the team, it's one team that works across every single kind of Halfbrick game, right? It's the one audio team come around like little audio fairies.
Exactly. It's like an umbrella team. We help all the other teams, and we try and do everything ourselves.
Yeah.
And we just spread out all across the company. It's great.
Nice.
You get to know everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a similar thing happens with marketing. So today, all the support. This is a support gang. Everyone here is from a support team. So it's really, really nice. So moving into you a little bit, apart from Halfbrick, what's your favorite game? I don't think I've ever asked you that.
No, I don't think you did. Favorite
That would have been the day one question.
Exactly. I mean, that's the question I ask everyone once I meet them. Hey, what's your favorite game? Yeah, my favorite game of all time is Terraria. I don't know if you guys played it.
So good. I have.
I know it's maybe unexpected, but because it's such a popular game. But I don't know. I remember being a kid and my computer didn't run anything 3D because it was really bad.
Like
And
Minecraft as well, or
oh yeah, it didn't run
really?
Minecraft. It didn't run Counter-Strike 1.6, like all of the classics that should run anywhere. It just didn't. And I remember spending so much time just looking for low spec games that could run on my computer. So I just ended up playing a lot of 2D stuff and old school emulation stuff. And yeah, I remember playing Terraria, and it was just the best thing ever. And it was such a bare bones experience from what it is right now. And yeah, I love that game. I put a lot of hours into that game, like a lot.
You got a number off the top of your head?
What? Sorry?
Do you want
Oh,
to
that's
drop a number,
shame.
or is that's
No,
not shameful? Wear it like
it's
a
1,000
badge.
hours, yeah, but which I think is a respectable number for
Yeah, for a game
single player game like Terraria.
that's really good.
But for Halfbrick, I have a special place in my heart for Age of Zombies, because that was a game I played on the original PSP when I was a kid as well. Yeah.
Nice.
So it is fun to to go full circle, I guess. But I'm curious about you guys. What's your favorite game?
I'll spare mine. The listeners have heard mine enough. I'll just quickly say it's Ratchet and Clank, and we'll move on to Carmen.
Okay.
We actually did a New Year's episode in which we talked about our favorite games. So if you were a true Halfbrick Show fan, you would know.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean mine is Final Fantasy 13. That's what I said last time. If you look at my playtime, however, I have to say that it's going to be Baldur's Gate 3. And that's shameful, yes.
You don't want to drop that one on the pod?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I've just did it, so it's fine. Let's just say that that's the game I'm currently getting into platinum on Steam.
Baldur's Gate?
Two achievements left, so that's
all the
what
characters and all the paths and all of that.
I love a role-playing game, I think. And also the music and the voice acting there is really, really good. Yeah. Well, in Terraria as well, I think. Like the Terraria soundtrack is something that I still listen to when I'm playing.
Yeah, I never really thought too much about it because I just played it as a kid and I took it for granted. But as time went on, I thought about it more, and it's such a unique soundtrack. I think especially because the composer wasn't really a game composer. He mostly did documentaries, I think, and TV shows. So the whole aesthetic is so unique that I think it left and it will leave a lasting legacy. Actually, a few years from I don't know, maybe 3 years ago or something, I started just randomly hearing Terraria soundtrack bits in memes and reels and TikToks for some reason. It just caught me off guard because it wasn't being used in a mainstream kind of way like a lot of soundtracks are used, like Minecraft and all of the older generation games. But yeah, I think it's picking up. I don't know if it's the nostalgia or what it is, but I think
comeback.
Yeah, exactly. People are listening to the Terraria soundtrack more now, I think.
Okay.
It's a great game.
So what inspired you to get into the games industry, given that it wasn't the Terraria soundtrack?
Well, maybe it was. I think it was a combination of things, but that's a good question, because I don't think there was a one thing that really pushed me to the game industry. I just really loved music and making music and listening to music, and I loved games, so it was just a very natural thing. Of course, I seeked it out and I wanted to go into the industry, but it was just a natural path for me. Things just naturally went that way. Yeah, if the two major things that you do are playing games and making music, then the best case scenario is that you'll end up making music for games.
Yeah. Can't really complain.
Yeah, exactly.
In that direction.
So that turned out well for me. So really grateful and happy that I get to do that for a living now. But
Yeah.
yeah, but it is interesting that you mentioned that it might not have been Terraria music that made me want to pursue this, but it's actually something that I thought about for some time now, which is that I spent so much time, and we collectively spent so much time playing games as kids that, for instance, video game music, I think it's one of the most influential types of music nowadays, just because it is completely stuck in our brains from just staring at the TV for hours on end when we were kids and listening to the tracks on repeat, especially the older games, right? If you're playing like a Sonic or Super Mario or something, you're just listening to that one track or two tracks on repeat, and then you die, and then you listen to it again and again and again, days on end.
Kong underwater track.
Yeah, exactly.
Comes
And
to mind.
Dire Docks from Super Mario 64. Those tracks will, for me at least, they stayed with me subconsciously for sure, and influenced my decisions in the future for sure. Like as a composer, even if I don't think about my influences, they're there in my subconscious just because I listened to those tracks so many times.
Yeah, they still shaped you in that way.
Yeah, and I think that happens for, that still happens and happened for millions and millions of people that, were kids back then and now we're adults.
Did you get a chance? I won't go on too much of a tangent, but did you get a chance to hear the Ratchet and Clank soundtrack from 2002?
Not actively. I mean, I listened to it when
so you have heard
as a kid, yeah. But
okay. Whew.
But since I didn't go back to the game recently, like I didn't really listen to it again. Yeah.
I just think it's super exploratory for its time, like for a video game soundtrack. Yeah. If you ever need, maybe give it a re-listen. I think it's only in mono, but I'll complain about that in another episode.
I have to listen to some of those PS2 and PS1 game soundtracks. Even Crash, for instance, Crash Bandicoot. Everyone talks about that soundtrack, and since I never played that as a kid, I don't have that much of a connection, so I didn't end up listening to it as much. But I really want to.
That one's right there as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, speaking of like getting your inspiration, do you want to tell us what you're working on at the moment? Have you got anything in particular?
Yeah, I'm currently working for the in the Halfbrick Plus stuff.
Yeah.
So designing a lot of UI sounds and juicy and rewarding sounds all over the place.
Card pack openings, was that?
Oh yeah,
you on
card
that?
packs,
Yeah, love that.
All the upgrade sounds and the card rarities. It is really fun, but it's a lot of small sounds, and small sounds can be really frustrating sometimes because you spend so much time designing a sound that's just a fraction of a second, and sometimes you just spend hours on it, and you have a fraction of a second to show someone, oh, this is what I've been doing. It just
You get like a room full of people, sit them down. You guys ready to hear this?
Now listen to this, and you press
milliseconds.
Can you give us an example?
An example?
Of one sound that, I mean, you have designed. It doesn't have to be for the Halfbrick Plus app, but something that seems simple, but it was hellish to make.
I mean, those are great examples, like UI sounds.
Blips.
Yeah, usually they're very small sounds, but for Halfbrick Plus in specific, since it's such an important app for us and we want it to be such a good experience for the players, the UI sounds are the sounds of the app. So we really have to be careful about what we do in there and how we design those sounds. So, the more attention you give to those sounds that are a fraction of a second, the crazier you'll get. So yeah, like I said, sometimes I'll be spending hours on just a button sound or just a scroll sound. It can be an experience, But yeah, there are a few examples of that. Fruit Ninja is a good example as well. We can do some sounds that are considered small, like the blade swipes, which are really important sounds, but
They're huge.
if you take a look at them, they're not that big or long, right? There's short swipes and swooshes. But we have to make sure that once you hear that swipe or that swoosh, then you connect it to the visuals and you understand that it's a unique blade and it doesn't sound like the other dozens of different blades that we already have. So yeah, I think that's a good example actually. The Fruit Ninja blades. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well,
So sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. I was just gonna say with those ones, there's some pretty odd sounds, with everything. I've heard some jetpacks in Jetpack Joyride that are very suspicious, with wondering where those sounds came from. What's the strangest like method that you've ever used to create a sound or sample, for a sound?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't remember if I ever recorded something completely weird.
Yeah, okay.
Because for audio, it's usually not a one-to-one process. So, for instance, if we're designing, let's say, if we're designing a jetpack, the classic machine gun jetpack, we didn't actually record a jetpack, right?
Right, you didn't go and get a machine gun and yeah.
So we have to find, it could be really anything that it could be predetermined and we know that it will sound like a jetpack, but most of the times it's experimenting, and for some reason this completely random thing, it could be this, I don't know, this plastic bottle that I have here, and I crush it, and for some reason I put distortion on it and I put some effect on it and it sounds like a jetpack. So I think audio has that thing going on for us where it's very experimental sometimes, and we need to do a little bit of crazy scientist type of stuff where we just go on a session experimenting and we end up getting sounds that sound like something completely different, and we end up using those for our games. But for me personally, I don't think I remember anything too crazy. I remember the Ghosts blade for Fruit Ninja was interesting because I had to record a few vocals for it, and it's just like it sounds like a very scary cute ghost, woo, with some effects on it. And I think at some point I recorded my cat for something, but I can't remember what it was. But it's one of those things. But
love to know that your cat's
ended up
just in
sounding
there
completely different, like I mentioned. So I don't remember what that was actually. Yeah.
How do you know? Like this is going to sound so stupid, but how do you know when music or like a sound effect fits a certain game or a certain action? Because that seems super difficult.
Like, are you talking about the things I mentioned? Like, when you're creating a sound, like, are you asking me if we already know that, for instance, a plastic bottle will sound like
Yeah.
Well, that just comes from trial and error most of the times. And I think it's a combination of, trial and error and knowing what sounds like what, because it's not a very direct thing. Like if you close your eyes and you can imagine how something will sound like, because most of the stuff you hear in games and in movies, if you listen to the sound effects but you're not watching, and if you're not looking at the image or the picture itself, and you close your eyes, you might be able to understand that, okay, this doesn't really sound like I'm going to give the example of jetpack again. This doesn't sound like a jetpack. This sounds like something else. But when it's played on top of the picture, it makes complete sense, right? But I would say it's a combination of those things where it's just experience, and you have that internal library of things that you already know sound like other things, and just experimenting. Yeah, just go on those sessions where you just record everything and put a lot of weird effects on everything, and then you end up with this collection of weird sounds that you get to name. And I made a bunch of I don't know, explosion sounds, or car engine sounds out of this, and you save those files, and they're there, and you don't know exactly how you ended up there or how you created them, but they're there, and you can use them for later.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
I think in that sense, it's really different from the visual arts, right? Because I think when you're doing things visually, it's a little bit more consistent in that way.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there are certain rules
Mhm.
that you can always depend on. Of course, a good designer or a rebel designer will always bend those rules. But like, for example, we read from right to left. No, from left to right.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yep. go
So
ahead, Phil.
usually, you know, a Spanish person will focus first on things that are on the left and then on the right, just because you're used to reading from left to right, and that's pretty consistent. Of course, if you were to talk to a person whose native language is Japanese, they might read in a different direction or whatever. So it's not set in stone, but I would say it's a pretty good guideline. So that's why I was so curious, I think, about knowing how or when. It's just
Do you
so
know it?
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's very different from visual arts. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
again, if you want to draw a dragon, then you can, you'll just start drawing something that resembles a dragon. And if we want to do like a dragon growl or something, and we don't really have a dragon.
Don't have a dragon handy.
So
Wait, let me get a dragon.
exactly. I think sometimes it's closer to like a collage of things. Like if you were to if you only had magazines at your disposal and you wanted to make a dragon, you would start to cut out something that resembles the shape of a dragon, and then would put things on top until it ends up looking like a really cool dragon.
Yeah.
I think sometimes
Beautiful.
we do something similar to that process, I would say.
For the sounds, yeah.
Yeah.
NetherRealm Studios, Mortal Kombat. Have you seen how they make their gross, dismembering sound effects? The crunchiness, the bucket of slime and a plunger, stuff like that.
Classic.
Yeah.
Just destroying vegetables.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
That's a classic, yeah. That's something that every sound designer goes through, just buying a random assortment of vegetables and just crunching them and breaking them and recording everything for those types of sounds.
I have a bit of a curveball question. Yeah, do you know off the top of your head if we've got real fruit slicing as reference in Fruit Ninja? Because I've never seen a recording session.
I mean,
it was a while ago now, though.
I've only been doing sounds for Fruit Ninja for the past, I don't know, 3-4 years. And from personal experience, I don't think I ever recorded fruits.
Okay. But slicing of any kind?
No slicing of any kind. Maybe. Let me think. Maybe. I don't think so, though. But in my defense, I haven't done a lot of the, I haven't touched any of the fruit stuff for the most time. Because.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, nowadays more blades and dojos and music. Because we nailed those fruit sounds a while ago.
That's it, right? They haven't changed.
But yeah, I wonder. We would have to ask Cedar about that. Maybe
another guest on the pod.
Yeah. Just thinking about those sounds, we might have recorded some fruits actually.
They sound pretty. Sure. Yeah, the fruit slicing sounds. I can close my eyes and hear them.
But yeah, that's a good part about it. Yeah, they are very. Every fruit has its own sound, and for some reason it makes sense. I don't know if it's it's probably not the actual fruit being sliced, but it makes sense visually. Like if you close your eyes, you know what's being cut. But yeah, that's a good question. We will have to see that and see if he knows or remembers.
Yeah, we'll put that one in for sure. Okay. I think we get right into the little games real quick as well. Guess the community comment. Have you heard of that one on the pod before? If not, we can give you a quick rundown. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it's you're gonna show me a comment and I have to guess if it's a community comment or just a made up thing between you two.
Yes. Yes.
Brilliant. First person who's
Okay.
got it.
First person. He has an eye for detail, Aiden. I feel like that's what we want. So I'm going to be reading the comment today. I do not read that many comments, so this is a special occasion. The comment is, this is written in all caps. Oh my God, seeing all these old characters makes me feel old. End quotes.
I don't know,
Or fake.
just the fact that it's in all caps. I don't know if you went the you wanted to keep it very detailed and very, very close to what it should be for a random comment. But on the other hand, would a person that's like, maybe our age, would they be commenting in all caps randomly like that? The probabilities. I'm going to say it's real. It's a community comment. Yeah.
It is real. It is real. That's very good.
Yes. Nice, Ricardo.
It sounded
Huge.
natural.
That's brilliant. I wasn't sure how much YouTube you would have been across, like community stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah. You'd be surprised. For better or for worse, I'm always looking for our stuff in the internet.
I'm sorry in advance, or in the past, whatever you may have already seen.
Yeah. I want to know what people are saying. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see what our players are talking about and see their interactions with each other and with us on Discord and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun
Well, here's
time,
here's the fun one that you've probably already seen then. But I'd love to hear your take, Ricardo. Where is Dan the Man 2? Yeah. Oh, you're on top of the show structure.
Oh yeah.
Really good. Really good.
I mean, once you mentioned the big one, I knew it was coming because it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think my cats keep it around in the living room. They're playing with it. They're playing with it here and there. I don't keep it around here so I can show it. But
no, that makes sense. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
They got their exclusive access.
Yeah.
They'll hand it to the people when they're done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
That's
our
fine.
beta testers.
Finally.
Man.
Thank you so much.
Final thought question.
Ooh.
Thanks again for all your time here so far.
Thank you.
What's one thing that the games industry has taught you that wasn't in the job description?
One thing the industry has taught me that wasn't in the description. I think that the biggest lessons that I learned in the industry were like just the interactions with people and how I used to hate this term, but soft skills, all those are important. How you interact with people and how respectful you should be and respectful of everyone's time you should be. That's like when you're younger, you only care about the technical aspects of it, and you're always anxious that you might not be good enough at this or that, and you just spend hours and hours and hours developing your technical skills, whether it being sound design skills or drawing or animating, modeling. And you sometimes forget that when you're working with other people, you need to develop the social aspect of it. So how you work with them, how teamwork is important, and being easy to work with is really important because we are a team and we're a big company and everyone needs to be working good together. And I've seen that all around, and it's something that I used to hate talking about when I was just starting out, maybe like almost 10 years ago. But it's something so important, and something that I notice in this industry is that you really need to love not only doing what you do, but also the games themselves, and loving. Like, you need to love how to make games, and you need to be interested in how games work and why games work the way they do, because there's so many talented people that love this industry with such a burning passion that you're gonna be in a disadvantage if you're just good at whatever you're doing and you don't have like this general, almost this subconscious understanding of how things should work, just because you spend so much time playing games, right?
Yeah, like even outside of your discipline of like audio
Yeah,
and stuff.
exactly.
You mean? Yeah. Yeah.
I think for the most part, this is where this industry is a little bit different from the others, where people just naturally understand the quote unquote products just because they spent their entire lives playing games and they love it essentially. Yeah, and if you're in, I mean, I worked in different industries before, and you know, it's a very big difference in this specific topic, where in other industries, like, you have people that might be really good at what they do, but you know, they go home and they forget about what they were doing, and they don't really care about that industry or the product that they are making. But I feel like that's not so common in our industry. I think most of us,
like
really,
everyone who's coming in,
we love
plays
what we
games.
do, and we love games, and we would be doing it in our own time still.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's an important part of maybe the specific company. I'm not 100% sure. Haven't been in too many, but to work somewhere that you can go and then play the game that you've worked on, or at least seen other people working on outside of work time, and still be like, this is fun.
Exactly.
You know, to not be like, I can't look at this ever again.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely remember having that in past jobs. But I really don't hold any grudge against Fruit Ninja or Jetpack. I'm still playing those games, you know, even though I spend hours and hours and hours recording random stuff and
getting those little sounds,
sword sounds and all of that. I'm still playing those games, you know. And, I remember working on football, and I was playing that game all the time, and you know, when I wasn't playing, I was working on it. So, and I think that's the beautiful part of our job.
Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Sorry, I a lot of these questions I didn't plan. I just was like, oh yeah, how do you cut the fruit? How does that sound? But I really appreciate you taking the time, Ricardo. Thank you so much.
Problem. Thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Yeah. If anyone's listening and they want to send in, like, you know, ideas or maybe even questions, we don't normally get guests back on, but nothing's out of the question. So if you have a question for the audio team, Ricardo or Cedar, potentially in the future, you can send them through to the show at halfbrick.com. And thanks again one more time, Ricardo.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. And to everyone, I hope you've had another great episode that you can look back on with nostalgia. And thank you for joining us, as always, in the Halfbrick Show.
Coming up next time on the Halfbrick Show.
There's no sneak peek for next week, but make sure you follow the Halfbrick Show wherever you get any of your favorite podcasts. Thank you for listening.